So Graham, are you ready? How's your hair?
I can't remember. It's been a long time.
Hello, friends. My name is Katya, Clifton Strengths Coach, and I'm here today with my good friend Graham Dobbin, who is the CEO of Asentiv, and he's a corporate trainer who teaches a lot of useful things. Hi, Graham. How are you?
That's one of the nicest welcomes I've ever had. Thank you, Katya. I do useful things. I'm good with that.
You're teaching very useful things, like networking and personal development and all of those different things. They're super useful. I was reading recently, as I was preparing for this, I was reading your profile on LinkedIn, and I absolutely love your About section. As I was reading this, I totally could hear you, saying those things.
It took a long time to write that. Genuinely, it took a long time to get my voice into that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not easy, right? To write copy so that it has your unique voice. It's not easy, but it's definitely you. And one of the things that I was curious myself about, you say that you're curious, but I was curious about this. You're saying that when you were younger, you were curious in both an inquisitive and slightly odd way. First of all, I want to talk about what does it mean, slightly odd. And second, you were saying that how curiosity was sort of being trained out of you. What are you saying here?
Do you know what? I don't think I'm unusual. I think it's as children we're really curious. I remember once one of the big treats for me was to go across to Edinburgh. I was born just about 10 miles outside Edinburgh in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And one of the big treats for me was to be taken over to a department store. This big store called Goldberg's. It had toys, it had televisions, it was everything. And I remember standing at the bottom of the escalator one day, and there was this big red button. Mm. And I was very small. And I knew there were words printed underneath that red button. I couldn't read them. I didn't know what they said. I knew it wasn't good, and I kind of knew what I wasn't supposed to do. But I did it. I pressed the button. So on this escalator, people were falling about everywhere. I ran about saying it wasn't me. And it was about 30 seconds later that I realised that curiosity could be really painful when my mum got a hold of me. I realised I was something I shouldn't have done. And I think we're naturally curious. We'll take chances and press that. And it's one of those stories that keeps on coming up at family get-togethers. Do you remember when Graham did this? And something was said, it was a few years ago, that really resonated with me, was when my mum turned around and said, he didn't do it again, though. And I thought, hold on a minute, that's maybe not good. Now, obviously, children, we need to know boundaries. Mm-hmm. But it was that part of curiosity that I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't ask the next question. And I began to think to myself, what have I missed out on? Mm-hmm. What have I not done by not just asking that next question? So I also put on the profile, I'm professionally nosy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not to offend, not to upset anyone, but I'll ask that next question. And I hope I genuinely hope, and I hope I've trained myself to do this. Even if I think I know the answer, I'm going to ask that next question, because it's so often that I don't.
Yeah.
And when we make that assumption, I think that's hugely restrictive for all of us.
Yes.
So I any programs I do is always about, come on, just what's the next question? Why have you not asked it? And people think, well, that's obvious, it's there. It might be obvious, but what if it's not?
Yeah, I also learned not to assume things because they get you into trouble.
So don't assume things, but also don't ask questions. As a kid, you're kind of like, no, okay, and you can see it. We've done it ourselves with kids. When they ask a silly question, we kind of roll our eyes. It just puts people off. We train ourselves not to ask a question, or there's even a fear of looking stupid by asking the simple question.
Yeah.
And God said, there's no question. Just ask it. There's no stupid question.
Which is interesting though, because sometimes we now as adults, we sort of have to go back into that, curious kid mentality, because sometimes some people are afraid to ask questions because they're afraid to appear stupid or something, right? So this is interesting.
It was a seismic shift, and about 4 years ago, I think it was, I kind of got to this point where I knew, one of the things that I do, I'm working with really smart people, really smart people. And I'm working with some of the biggest brands in the world. So when we're going in there, they employ clever people. So when I got used to being, I just keep on saying to myself, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I don't need to be the smartest guy in the room. That changed my world completely. Changed how I approached everything and how I was open up. There's no ego. There's none. I walk out of, when I'm doing training or facilitation or anything, whether it's online or in the room, every single time I walk out, a more knowledgeable person I walk in.
Yeah.
There's two of us in this room at the moment. I know I'm not the smartest guy in this room.
Oh, come on.
And here's the thing, but the thing is, I'm going to walk away from this experience, and we've both done these before, but I'm going to walk away from this experience having learned something. And that to me, that's what it's all about. So when I got rid of the ego as much as we possibly can and said, I'm not the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah. You
guys are. What I can bring is this. The value I do bring is this. Then it changed. So I've allowed myself to ask those stupid questions.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And sometimes I preface it by going, okay, this might sound really stupid, but what does that mean? And most of the time people say, no, it's actually not a stupid question, because it could be 3 or 4 different things. Plus,
you may inspire someone else to sort of raise a hand and ask equally, not not a smart question.
No, but it's true, when we lead like that, we kind of give permission.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's always fun. It makes it fun, and it takes the pressure off me.
And everybody else in the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me, for example, right now.
Good. I don't put you under pressure, do I?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, so Graham teaches the right way of networking. So I wanted to ask you, Graham, what does networking mean to you?
It's one of the things we do, and to me, networking is only a function of building a network. And I don't want that to sound like it's a play on words, because it's not. Networking is about, when we look at business networking, it's about how do we make those relationships? How do we connect with people? Just, we should be really curious there. Too often, it's actually probably easier to tell you what it's not. It's not a sales environment. It's just not. If anybody's interested in networking or been networking, I would challenge them to think of the last time they went out onto either a virtual network or face-to-face. Remember all those years ago when we could do that? When was the last time you went to buy something? You don't.
Yeah, I go on Amazon.
Well, exactly. We're not going to a business networking room to buy something, but we've got a whole load of people trying to sell to us. So what networking to me is just looking for those connections. It should be facilitated in the right way. It should just have that kind of structure where it's easy to make connections. I suppose New York is famous for having happy hour connections. And then you've got to be really lucky. You've got to be lucky to be standing next to the right person. You've got to be lucky to have the right conversation or ask the right question. When you do it a different way and have maybe just a little bit more structure, just a touch, and people aren't into pitch and sell, it's amazing what happens in relationships.
Yeah. So how do you feel about people handing you a business card? You just met them. They hand you a business card and then they sort of ask you kind of for a referral. What does it do to you?
Katya, this is a loaded question because you've seen this happen to me.
Yes, I did.
I don't react well, do I? I, to me, it's the same as going up to somebody in the subway platform and asking them for business, or stopping them in the street. Why on earth? You know, we've got to earn the right. Here's the thing: we've got to build trust. We've got to earn the right. Nobody is obliged to introduce me or give me business. Nobody. I would like people to want to do it. And I'm curious enough to ask other people. And I'm trying to find out about the person. We connect. Here's the thing. We connect on a personal basis, even though it's business. Once we've done that, then I'm more interested in what someone does. But trust needs to be built. It's the very, you know, there's this phrase that's put out in networking circles. If you know someone, like them, and trust them, you'll give them business. That's not enough. That's the basics. That's actually the start of it. You need to understand each other and get comfortable. But this is about depth of relationship, not width. Yeah. So we think about LinkedIn. I checked this morning. I've got about 2,000, just over 2,000 connections. I keep them tight. I don't just connect with anybody. Those 2,000 connections know in the region of, I think it was about 8 million.
Wow.
Why am I going networking? Why am I meeting new people? We don't need to meet new people. We need relationships in a different way. Yeah. So this is about identifying who you should spend time with, not pretend. That person we go out for a glass of wine every month with is not networking. It's just a social. Nothing wrong with that, but let's not put that down as business development. Yeah. So it's networking is just a function of creating relationships. And if it's done well, here's the thing. If I know you and I know Fred, and I like you and I like Fred, my guess is you're going to like each other. And it's about how do I facilitate that conversation. So I'm constantly looking how I connect people, and mostly it's about personality and fit, rather than necessarily just because that's a CPA and that's an attorney and they should get on well together, because that doesn't work. Yeah.
I have 2 follow-up questions, but before I ask them, can you tell our friends what is Asentiv and what do you do?
No, I mean, Asentiv, we effectively, the core of the business is about how to build relationships in business. And from that, we do it a number of different ways. We run programs, and run networking events. Very specifically, we run mastermind groups. And it's all about creating a really comfortable personal space where people can explore what others have done, learn from others, not just from us. We work with reluctant salespeople, people that need to sell, that hate the process or are scared of it. You know, there's all these buzzwords, accidental entrepreneur. We're going to have a lot of this after, you know, when we come back out of the situation that we're in at the moment. It's the same in 2008 and 2009. People were creating businesses for themselves to almost create a job because they were out of work. Yeah. So they were looking to use their skills to be able to kind of bring something to market. Being the best at what you're being the best attorney in the world is no good if nobody knows about it. You can't tell anyone. It isn't. So so what we do is we work in leadership, we work in employee engagement, just about how, again, team building is going to be a huge thing. And just how do you get your message over? How do you do it in a non-salesy way? How do you allow people to buy from you? And how do you just meet some great people? Oh, yeah. You know, and that's it.
So one of the programs that I know that I did with you with Asentiv in person, one of them is, I forget the name of it, unfortunately now, but it's something how to nurture your network and get referrals, how to make them more efficient for you. You yourself just mentioned you have about 2,000 people on LinkedIn who can connect you to about 8 million people. So how Can you talk a little bit about that program, how to nurture those relationships?
Connecting with purpose that you came
Probably.
on. And again, it is about where do we spend our time? We know these people, don't ignore anyone, but have different strategies. Or it's just going to be scattered on. Pick the people that we want to spend time with, that we've maybe got a connection with, and let them know what you do. I know this sounds really crazy, but the amount of times that we don't tell people what we do or how they could help us. If I say to you, if I ask you to write down, you know, the top 4 people that you know, and you know, like, and trust in business, and you maybe share things, we've all got those trusted confidants. I would challenge you, how many opportunities have they brought you in the last year?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. I mean, now, wow. Not many. Not many, yes.
So let's assume that everybody's got, I don't know, 500 connections on LinkedIn, not the 2,000 that I've got. Are you saying to me that they don't know anybody that could maybe help you? And if you like them, and remember, this is 2A. This is, you know, this is you helping them and them helping you. But would you like to help them?
Of course, yeah.
So would it be fair to say that if you get on really well, they probably like to help you?
Yes, I would imagine so. I hope so. I would hope so.
So the only thing that's missing there is telling each other how you do it.
Yeah.
When was the last time you turned around and said, this is where I need a bit of help? This is who I'd like to be connected with. You mentioned this, and it's, you know, referrals are, it's a word that's used a lot. I kind of look at just, have they made business connections for you? Have they created, you know, have they spotted an opportunity that you could maybe have a discussion? Let's not even go down the referral route. Let's not even talk about it being hugely warm. Just, where have they turned around and said, Katya, tell you what, I'm going to introduce you to this person. I'm not quite sure what's going to come out of it. But I just think you guys are going to get on. And if you have a good discussion, opportunities will come.
Yeah.
Now, my network know that if I introduce 2 people, they need to spend time together. They know there's a reason. And I can't always see the reason, but there's just that gut instinct that, let's try it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll get lots of regular free lunches out of it. It's great. I say, I'll introduce you guys. Let's the 3 of us get together and one person pay. It's great. It's great for me. I'll get a free lunch and maybe a free beer.
Yeah. So, but definitely, yes, I do remember that sort of way of looking at your current connections rather than looking for the new people, right? And then thinking about this, okay, so how many referrals, you know, how much business did I get from my, and why am I not nurturing those? That was like a mind-blowing thing for me. I mean, the way I built my network in New York when I moved here in 2014, I was actually in a very strategic way, I have to say. I was offering my photography services at events, right? My camera opened, nice, you know, doors for me to so many different wonderful things. And I did get referrals, but they were maybe because I was still figuring things out. So it wasn't like the whole, you know, one sort of channel or something like that. So, but yeah, it's very interesting. I absolutely love that idea of thinking about your existing network and you know, pouring your sort of love into it and you know, getting business through it. So another thing that I remember I absolutely loved from at one of your in-person events that I went to, it was Chat Over Chat, and I loved how you sort of you know, break people into smaller groups, and you always have a facilitator there to have the sort of deeper, let's say, conversation. Yep. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I suppose in a lot of networking and community, let's call this community groups as well, the central figure tends to be the most important person. I've seen that so many times, you know, it's the person who's running it is the most important and we need to be around them. I love to flip that around and give people the chance to shine.
Yes.
Now, when you've been to those, I probably didn't do different to what we're doing now. I probably didn't do any talking or virtually no talking that night. Certainly didn't pitch. But what we do is break people up and you know, I'll give some questions.
Yes.
They're maybe thought-provoking questions that will stimulate a conversation and just get people to talk. They're doing it over a real, you know, social. They maybe got a glass of wine or a cup of tea or a Coca-Cola or something like that. You know, they've got and there was nice food, and we just kept on mixing up and just got people talking to each other about different things. You know, we'd set in stimulating questions like, what was the worst piece of advice you've ever been given? You know, who would you not like to? So almost the opposite of all this, you know, everything you'd normally do. Get a bit of fun in it. It's got to be fun.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
And just really enjoy themselves. And what we did was get business people together that we kind of trusted and got them mixing with each other. As simple as that. So we were just starting those relationships and starting those conversations. I know there's a lot of relationships that come out from it. I know there is.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, one of the things maybe I should have said this at the beginning. We arrived in New York 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I knew 6 people. And
now you have 2,000 on LinkedIn.
3 of them only. It's only 3 of them that talk to me now. Not too often.
So wait, 3 out of those 6?
Out of those 6, I think 3 of them speak to me now. But genuinely, you 6 people started a business from zero.
Wow.
From nothing. No clients, nothing. And I just had really quickly written down, the last 6 months I've worked with Google, World Bank, WeWork, BMW. I've been all over the US, which I didn't expect. I've been working with the US Army. What was it? So I've been in Ohio, I've been in DC, I've been in Virginia Beach, I've been in Orlando, LA, San Francisco, working, all from my network that I've met in the last 2 years.
You've been busy.
And it's people that have either known me, like me, or they've introduced me to someone else. Before we had the lockdown or the pause or whatever you want to call it here, I spent 2 weeks in Australia working. That all came from a contact here.
Wow.
And I got in about a week before everything kind of closed down. So that was in March. I was across in Australia working. And all of this has come from my network. We're not advertising anywhere. Yeah, I've got a website. Nothing major on social media whatsoever. Yeah, I'll post things on LinkedIn and tell people what I'm doing. I don't post things and say, please buy from me. It's like, look, I'm lucky to be working with these people. And leave it at that.
That's awesome.
So networks work. And as much as I teach this, there's been no great strategy there. There was no great strategy to work in Australia or with Google or with anyone. It was doing the right thing, see what happens. Be open for it.
Yeah.
When opportunities come, take them.
Speaking of, you know, doing this in your way, so to say, and doing the right thing, I just saw on your website quote. Doing a common thing uncommonly well brings success. Why did you choose that to put on your website?
Do you know what? None of this. We know all this intellectually. We all know the stresses we put ourselves under, how we make it difficult. You know, I think one of the other phrases that comes back, you know, it's common sense, it's just not commonly done. So most of the things that I do, people know intellectually. They know what they should do. It's about getting into context. And where people really struggle at is actually taking an idea or something they should do or a habit they should change and actually making it work for them. So the skill that I bring into a room is how everybody can do that for themselves. There's no one size fits all. It's extremely arrogant for me to walk into a room and say, do 1, 2, and 3, and 4 will happen. Because that's not true. That's not life. If it were, it's the best example I can come up with. If it was, I'd sell you a book. I'd be a bookseller. Because all I'd ask you to do is read a book and do it. How many times have we read a really good book and gone, God, that's it, that's changed my life. And then it's another month down the line and you've done nothing.
Right.
It's about bringing that to life.
Yeah.
So, you know, we know this stuff, it's common knowledge. It's about how we put it into place.
Yeah. And how we make it our own, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, you know, if I'm working with one company, so I do open programs where I've got people from all different companies and backgrounds and everything in one room. But even if I'm working with one company doing one subject, two people sitting right next to each other, who've sat and this is real, who've maybe worked with each other for 5 or 6 or 7 years, have got different approaches. We've got different behavioural styles. We've had a different journey to work. We've got different financial pressures and family pressures and visions and ideas of what we want to achieve. It's really difficult to get one thing to fit both people in exactly the same way. So it's about me opening it up and saying, right, how do you do it?
Yeah.
And helping people get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Going back to the networking, I think I mentioned to you how I read this headline. I think it was Wall Street Journal, which was something like COVID-19 or coronavirus killed networking. I was like, wow, is this true?
It's really interesting. Yes and no. So what it's done is everybody's virtually networking now. I actually sat back for the first 4 weeks. Now, we run networking events, and I sat back and said, I'm doing nothing. Because there was so much noise out there. So people are meeting on Zoom, on WebEx, on Hangouts or Skype or whatever it is. And they're getting together, and there's a little bit of structure. So it's not killed networking because tons of people are networking. But I would actually question, and this is going back to what I said earlier, that's networking. It's not building a network. They're not getting to know each other. One of the other challenges that it's brought is there's very little education on it. And I've been in several meetings over the last few weeks that the subject matter has been, what are you scared of? You know, what's your biggest fear? I don't want to be going in a networking room to be doing that. You know, and hearing everybody going down. This is about how you build things. So has it killed it? Activity's high. I know people who are, genuinely, people are probably doing about 15 a month, maybe more, event. Is the quality there though? Is it actually achieving what it's supposed to achieve? I would question it.
Yeah.
Briefly question it. So when we're doing it at the moment, networking events that we've got on, we're actually doing them invite only.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Good people, and we're also saying to them, look, if you know someone, I trust you to bring them into the place, and it's going to be a good fit. So we're actually doing it in an invitation only at the moment. I could fill a room with hundreds. That's value.
And I was at one of your virtual networking events also recently, where you did the same thing, where you put people in breakout rooms on Zoom, and there were discussions, which again, it definitely, when you have a facilitator or moderator, and you have a topic to discuss, I don't know, actually, maybe you can talk to it a little bit. It does bring us sort of together, you know, that sort of, not just like some icebreakers about weather, you know, I actually don't like talking about weather.
or what are you scared of at the moment?
Yeah, it's like, so yeah, that definitely, that approach, I absolutely love it. And yes, it's interesting how, I love this definition that you just gave us, how network is about building and nurturing your network. But was it difficult for you to sort of, now that we're in this lockdown, is it difficult for you to not have that sort of in-person connection with people?
It's really weird. You know what? One of the things that in training, when you do corporate training, you're asking introverts to do the opposite constantly.
Yeah.
They're loving this.
Yes.
Now for somebody like me, who's an extrovert, I now know what I've put everyone else through. So I'm going to be a little bit more sympathetic in future. Has it made it more difficult? Yes, it has to a point. The point being, though, is I'm really conscious of people's time. And for example, I think we actually had the last face-to-face networking meeting in Manhattan before the close down. It was on March the 13th. Tommy Bahamas. I did breakfast in the Bahamas. I mean, it was good fun. And I remember that night watching, it was sold out, and then just watching people pull out one by one. We ended up with 10 really good people there, had great fun. Bring it into online. I'm making sure that when I'm asking people to come to something, it's of real value. And I'm connecting with as many people outside the room as possible. Because some people sit with lots of time at the moment. Others are working longer and longer hours. Yeah. There's not that demarcation of home and work.
Yes.
We drop into when is Saturday? There is just that crossover. So I'm really, really conscious of people's time at the moment. That when they give up an hour or a couple of hours, it's got to be real value. So the difference for me is maybe being a little bit more conscious of that.
Yeah.
I'm being invited into somebody's home. That's 90% of the time I'm in someone's home now. And we're doing something like this, and we need to be really respectful of that.
Yeah.
Really respectful.
Yeah, that's definitely a good observation. Even I myself noticed how, yes, you're right. It's like the days it's such a bizarre time where it sort of, it feels longer, right? But then also today is Friday, and wait, wasn't Monday yesterday? It feels extended, and at the same time it goes so fast. And I certainly noticed, I was actually thinking about this just yesterday, how because I don't have that need, let's say, to commute somewhere or to go and meet friends or any of those things, I do spend much more time now on different types of screens, which drains me so much faster. And so yes, I agree with you how it's a good idea to be respectful of people's time right now, and thank you for being so compassionate.
We just got to.
Yes. So you mentioned to me that you are starting a radio show on leadership. How did this come about?
I always worry when you start a question by you mentioned to me, I think, what have I said now? Yeah, we're going to start a radio show which will begin in June.
Oh.
And the radio show will be about leadership, but more about the people behind leaders. Leadership. What brought them to it? How did they approach it? It's really, there are millions of books out there about, again, we know this intellectually, about how we deal with leadership. And we can talk about successes all the time. I want to, and I will be speaking with people who have maybe a bit more streetwise, a little bit more colourful background. Maybe made mistakes, maybe have this moment that something really simple has come to them, going, wow, okay, now I'm going to try this. And just hear the interesting stories. I know that we're going to, there's a couple of people that we lined up who are very successful business people in their own rights, but also involved in sports. What's the difference between working with businesses and leadership and maybe professional athletes? And then let's think about professional athletes now in this time where they might be at home all over the world. And we want them to keep fit, and we want them to do things. So I'm just really, again, I'm curious about just how do people get to this place? Because I've yet to see that there's one path. And yet we buy the books and expect to do it one way.
Yeah.
So I want to get dug in. I've got some really cool people who, almost gave up their businesses completely when all this happened and got stuck into volunteering in New York City.
Yeah.
That's leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership isn't just about managing a global company.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to get into in the radio shows, just get
Yeah.
really behind people.
No, this is amazing because yeah, leader is, I mean, this is how I think I see or define leadership. Leader is somebody who inspires you to do something amazing, right? Either it's like you said, it's from their background, their lessons that they learned from their in their life as they got to where they are. And there's so many amazing people out there who have so many interesting stories. Yeah.
One of the biggest compliments I've had it a couple of times, is where someone's come up to me and said, "Do you know when you did this?" No. And they'll go, "I can't remember." And they'll say to me, "You did this, I saw you doing that, you said this. That really made a difference to me."
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually no idea that I've done it, because it's who we are.
Yeah.
And I think we forget how much we touch other people that we may not see again. There's one or two books out there that really, again, brought that home to me. And not business books. So like, the 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Just all about, this person who turned around and said, "You had this effect on someone 10 years ago because you said this and it was a positive and this is what it meant to them."
Yeah.
We forget about the interactions that we have. Not easy. It's not easy. We've got to work at it. I want to know it'll be brilliant if we get some insights into there of, I've been thinking about coming on the show and I've realised that this happened. Yeah. I'm just looking for some insights, get some real raw feedback and insights on what leadership really means. So just doing it is leadership sometimes. Yeah,
definitely. Because again, it inspires people. It's like even me with this talk show, right? I mean, I do it all by myself. I just do it over Zoom, and people get curious. People get excited. What is she doing? Why is she doing this? And maybe I should do that too. And I have those conversations with people now as well, which is great.
Maybe you should come on the show.
Huh?
Maybe you should come on the show.
Maybe I will.
You should.
I'll wait for that invite.
Well, here's the thing. When you sent me the email about coming on to here, I'm like, nice job. Good on you.
Oh, thank you.
Really good. And my first reply was, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing something kind of similar, but on radio. This is great."
Yeah.
So, no, absolutely.
Yeah. What kind of trainings do you do? And like, if anyone who is watching might need you right now.
Coming by quick. Where do I work best? Been working a lot with leadership teams where there's been a strategic vision that needs to be cascaded down throughout the organisation, make it real for employees. I've been working on employees how to get the message over. Really simply, how to make difficult or complicated ideas really simple. Maybe some storytelling. That's what I really get involved with. So it's about how you run teams. And one of the big things at the moment, and it's interesting, it's now coming out probably just in the last week, but we've been speaking about it for 4 weeks, is with the shutdown and offices closing, everyone's talking about, how do I manage my team remotely? Yeah. That's fine. We've been forced into this. Yeah. And the message is save lives. So it's quite a big why. Pretty good with this. The biggest change for business is going to be the other way around. It's when someone makes the decision it's now safe to come back. And we've got people who think about New York. We've got people now who are all over the country and out the city. Most people, when I go to a networking room, are actually outside the city, not in it now. And we're going to have people there saying, I don't know if I want to go into an office. I don't know if I want to get in the subway. Do you know what? I've done really well. I've performed really well in the last few weeks. Why do you want me to come and sit in an office? And there's going to be other people who can't wait to get into the office. Yes. Everything's changed. How do you manage a team when there's now seriously different priorities and the goalposts have been moved? It's changed because of something. What's the why for coming back? You get involved with How do you manage that? How do you get the message over? How do people feel comfortable? How do how do you measure it?
Yeah.
So that I actually think the biggest change is about to come.
Yeah.
There's going to be new team members. We're going to have lost team members because they've been furloughed or laid off. There's going to be a lot of emotions running.
Right. Or
How do
definitely.
and how do you allow that outlet, but allow it constructively? How do you get people just working together? And how do we, maybe you used the word earlier, how do we be compassionate to it whilst being protective of the business? We still need to protect the business. Because if we don't, nobody's got a job.
Right.
So that's kind of where we get really involved, and that's where I see the puck heading. That's where we're skating towards that puck of where it's going.
And one of the things that I've been noticing, or heard from friends, also, we human beings, we have different sort of abilities to cope with stress. So now that everyone is remote and many people are by themselves, right? They're single people, and so that must be also affecting the how people perform. And I wonder how leaders or managers now are sort of handling that, because it's can you ask for as much as you would normally in a normal environment, or do you give them sort of one of the companies, who was it? Was it Google who just announced that they're giving an extra day off or something like that for people to sort of deal with that?
I mean, I think a lot of companies are there. There's some companies that have now turned around and said, right, let's take away the uncertainty. You can work at home till the end of the year.
Yeah.
Seems some big announcements. That's great.
Yeah.
We're now going to have other people saying, well, if they can do it, why can't we?
Right.
And other ones that are saying, I don't want to work at home. Right. Leadership is about how do we see it through other people's lens?
Yes.
And that's absolutely crucial. How do we see it through other people's eyes? There'll be people in the city that have that are on their own. People that are in the city that are not on their own, but they're in a studio apartment and two of them are trying to work. People who've got kids who they're now trying to juggle getting the schooling in. Who have left the city, not quite sure about coming back in. And so we've got a huge change, and I see a lot of people being unsettled for quite a while, just because of different experiences at the moment and what they will see how the world might be.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We've just got to deal with that. There's nothing bad about it. It's just how do we deal with it? So how do we deal? And so we need to protect the people to protect the businesses. We need to protect the people to protect the business. We get involved with the people, not necessarily the process, but the people. And if we don't have people bought in, engaged, working with us on it, we won't have a business. And it's going to be even more difficult when some are remote and we've got all these other emotions going on. We're going to have businesses open when schools aren't open. What do we do then? When people have got childcare issues, so there's a lot going to go on.
Are you seeing any budgetary cuts in training and development?
Oh, huge! It's 9 times out of 10. It's the first thing to go.
What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of understand it, but I was on a call yesterday to some colleagues in Germany, and they were mentioning one company in particular who are doing very well at the moment. They're in pharmaceuticals, but their comment was, if we do not look after our people now, we will not have. So they're actually ramping up training.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good.
It's one of the biggest challenges with training is understanding the return on investment. And some people are very good at being able to do that. Some aren't.
Yeah.
My take on this is most people have some kind of time or more flexible time now. Use that time to, get the foundations right for the business. Be agile about it. Be flexible about how you come back and get everybody into that mindset. I actually think it's the time to do it now. However, I understand completely, completely that budgets are tight.
Yeah, definitely. I recently watched a webinar with Laszlo Bock, I think his last name. He's a former chief human resources officer at Google, who now runs his own startup. And I think what he was saying, I think he actually said it was a mistake that he's seeing some companies are, cutting financial resources for like diversity and inclusion groups and training and development, because it's like you said, it's people are important, and like taking care of people is important right now.
Here's the thing, everything's, in a situation like this, everything is polarized.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's going to get stressed, and they're going to be stressed within an organization, there's going to be more now.
Mm-hmm.
If there's going to be nervousness and uncertainty, there's going to be more now. If it's actually difficult to get people to buy in to what we're doing, it's going to be even more now. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily to do with the company. It's to do with, we're hearing negative things all the time. I mean, I went through this. I had a fairly large construction company in 2008. I remember driving to work every day, and it was like, the banks are falling, everything, the property crash. It was just trying to keep a team going. So difficult. So we've got all these external things that are happening. Mm-hmm. We can't shut them out. We can only deal with them. Mm-hmm. We don't give our people the resources to be able to deal with them. Telling people to pull themselves together or chin up and just smile doesn't work. It just, we know it doesn't work. If it was easy the other way, again, I'd be a bookseller. I'd sell a book. I tell everyone a book, tell everybody to read it and do it. We need to give people the resources to be able to handle this. Mm-hmm. And you know what? One of the things that's been phenomenal in leadership, and I think this is too controversial because I'm going to talk about politics, how leadership has helped New York City and state deal with this has been, in my eyes, phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I have got, through the local politicians, I've got no lens to look at. I've got no prior knowledge really of them. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. And it was something that came out, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I have regular chats with people in the UK about their approach. Mm-hmm. So their approach is very restrictive. You're allowed out for an hour. You're allowed to go 2 miles from home. You're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do that. It's really restrictive, and you've got everybody looking at each other. Mm-hmm. Have they gone 2.5 miles from home?
Yeah, and report them. Yeah.
Whereas here, we've been at the epicenter. Yeah. And one of the things that was said was, we gave everybody good information to make good decisions. Mm-hmm. Simple. So it's not about restricting people when you go out. It's about, what do you do when you are out? How do you do it? Yeah. And that's exactly where we get involved, is give people enough great information to make really good decisions. Yeah. Don't put people in boxes. Yeah. Don't put walls around them. So when we run behavioural styles, and I know that's something you're really keen on, it's not about putting someone in a box, it's just understanding them more. Mm-hmm. It's just more information. Yep. That's all. So one of the things I think has been phenomenal here, and how New York has dealt with this, is, here's information, make the decision yourself. There'll be certain things that have to, like masks, etc. now. But even then, that was a really easy implementation. Mm-hmm. Screaming about it in the UK and arguing, we just went, okay, what we need to do. Because we've been trusted as adults. Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to do in business. Yeah, having grown up in Soviet Union, I know a little bit about restrictions. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm Scottish. Okay, Graham, I think we're out of time now. I don't want to, keep you for too long, even though I think we could continue this conversation for another hour. Thank you so much for your time. But can you please tell folks where they can find you if they wanted to? You know what? LinkedIn. I'm really easy to find the LinkedIn. There are like 4 Graham Dobbins in the world. So I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn. Or drop me an email, graham@asentiv.com. Yeah, and I think you actually, there's your email on in your about section on LinkedIn. So folks hear you.
yeah, here you have it. You can reach out to Graham. He's wonderful, as you can see. No, really, and I love your humor so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. And there's a button below this video. Subscribe. I will be bringing many more guests like Graham, and we will have wonderful conversations. And hopefully, actually, I may bring Graham back after he has recorded a few leadership radio shows to talk to him about that a little bit. Okay, thank you again. Great. Bye everyone.